Hello, everybody, and welcome back to MJ Games. I am Michael, and today we are looking at another park created by Deep PHS called Rivendell Inspired Theme Park. I am really happy to be joined today by another wonderful PC creator named DwarrenIce. I believe I pronounced that okay for you, but he does amazing work on PC. Is the links below, so make sure you go check it out. And working on a park now for how long? You been working on Mythica now? About 2 years.
Yeah, way too long. It's been 2 years now.
Yes. So I thank you so much for joining me for this park tour.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for that nice introduction.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you do a lot of great work, and it's really, I mean, as a console creator, it's really great to watch a lot of different PC creators just to kind of see how, the stuff that you guys have learned over the years of how to build different things. And, I chose this park just because the level of detail in here is really top notch, especially for a console creation and what we're seeing. And so I think you would appreciate a lot of what this creator's done in this park.
Yeah, I'm already feasting my eyes to the amount of detail that's in there, which is actually surprising me a bit, because I know that console has a piece count maximum,
Hmm.
and if I build things like this, then the piece count is way too high, and my
Yeah.
laptop ends up burning, but it looks
Yeah, I
really cool.
remember. I remember we were talking yesterday, and you talked about how you can build you can sometimes spend like 2,000 pieces just for a roof, and you can't really do that too much on console unless if you build a park this size. Um, so it's really impressive to kind of see this level of detail spent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
Um,
be able to pull it off. I would use way too many pieces.
yeah, and well, that's why some creators they just make smaller parks because they don't want to, go light on the details, and so they know they can't make a massive park. But what are your kind of
Yeah.
initial thoughts from this before we actually get into the park tour from what you're seeing?
Well, it looks really good. Good. It looks really elfy. So the theme has been done really well, and
Hmm.
I'm in awe of the amount of detail, considering that it's also console. But even if it was on PC, it would be a very impressive build.
Yes, and now there are a couple. There's one part where I show a roof that he made, and it's like I think it's like 1,200 pieces for the roof. So right up your alley, right?
Mhm.
which takes about
Yeah.
two, which takes about 2% of the counter, which is crazy. I think it's about 650 pieces per percent.
Yeah.
And that's not including rides and pass and stuff. But this is just a beautiful park. Is kind of seeing some overhead shots and stuff, and the mixture of the different types of trees really works as well.
Yeah, and the different levels of elevation also does
Hmm.
it justice in terms of terrain.
Totally agree. And there's only two coasters in the park, as you can see, a Gerstlauer Infinity coaster, and then we've got it looks maybe like a B&M invert, but it's one of those Vekoma SLCs, I think, or I forget the
Mhm.
exact type with that, but it's really cool how it's kind of dug out on the ground here.
Yeah, I always love when I'm building coasters to also have them hugging the terrain and going into the ground itself. But yeah, that's also playing with the elevations, which
Hmm.
is just
Yeah, agreed.
awesome.
Agreed. And he
And
kept
in
the theme.
reality, they don't. No, sorry. In reality, they don't build it that much because it's very expensive to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. And so now we're actually starting with the tour. So we're in flip cam mode as we're kind of doing the park, and we've got, I mean, right away, great views. There's not really much of an entrance to the park, but to me, I don't really mind that just because of the views that you kind of get as you walk up that hill. Um, seeing this coaster come by is really just a nice look.
Yeah, and also with I think the station building or what kind of building that is, but it just looks really good. Just getting in there and having that building in the background and the coaster on the right looks
Hmm.
really good.
Yeah, and there's a couple different kind of strategies this creator used that I noticed when walking around and filming this, to create these roofs. And his flat ride is one of the roofs that has a lot of pieces, but then on some of the other roofs, he just used the 4 meter scaffolding boards, which works pretty well too.
Mhm.
But we'll come back and look at this roof once they get out flip cam mode, and I was honestly amazed at types of pieces he used. So really cool
Mhm.
rides there.
Yeah, and it's still classy, so you could also, if print, you could also use it for a lot of things,
Hmm.
a lot of themes.
And he kept the one thing too is that custom fence there. Is I noticed that and I was like, oh, I like using those kind of plank pieces as that fence, and
Hmm.
just the ornate detail with it is really really well done.
Yeah, I agree.
And one thing I normally do is I kind of always look to see backstage stuff, which I thought there might be some back here, but I think that would just be if you're to ever get a PS5 and were to have advanced the park a little bit. But really, this is one of my favorite builds I've seen, just with the detail. As you can see there, I think that's just the scaffolding boards as the roof. Then add in all the extra detail around it, just makes it really stand out.
Yeah, and also the niches, is that what you call them, and the
Hmm.
details on the walls itself. It's using a lot of white, but it is in a way it isn't too white. It all has a bit of color in there, which I really like because sometimes with these teams you get like a very white palette,
Right.
and it's a bit of a shame because details tend to go missing then.
Hmm.
But there are a lot of changes in color that highlight the details. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
totally agree. I think that's where I struggle still at this game is trying to get better, which it takes time, right? Like it's not an easy game to just pick up and be great at right away. But is adding all those little details that really make the buildings and parks kind of stand out. Um,
Well, something that actually helped for me to get better is to actually recreate something that already exists, but
mhm.
on scale. Because the scale in Plinko can be a bit off, so you're forced to make custom walls and custom roofs and everything custom. But trying to recreate something, even if it's part of Main Street, it really helps you get the attention to detail and get the color schemes. And
Hmm.
it's something that that you could try, perhaps. But
Yeah. Well, while we're kind of walking around just a little bit before we get to kind of the
Mhm.
coaster area, tell us if you would just a little bit about your Mythica arc that you're working on and kind of how that started. I know you said it originally wasn't meant to be a 2 year long park project.
Yeah, no. It was meant to be a smaller park. I actually started with building the parking lot and thinking to myself, well, I just visualize a line from the parking lot into a square, and that will be the park. It won't be any bigger than that, because I wanted to have a series again, but not one that would take as long as my park before that. And now it ends up even taking longer than the park before that.
Yeah.
um, but that's mainly due to that I tried to put more elevations in my terrain, and then I was lifting my paths, placing attractions in, and then I looked underneath my paths, and I was like, well, there's a lot of space there, so I will just add something in there. And I ended up working on different height levels, intertwining them all and theming everything. So
Yeah.
in the end, yeah, it took a bit longer. But I also have for the park itself, it has a complete storyline with it. The park
Right.
itself has a storyline. Every coaster has a storyline. Every major attraction has a storyline. And I even made the storyline in such a way that I already have a second park in mind,
Okay. Awesome.
which I can continue the story on.
Yeah, for
So it's been a
sure.
ton of fun, but it's taking a lot of time.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest. I haven't seen every episode. I have seen a fair amount. I'd actually watched some. I really got started playing Planet Coaster. Just um, but it's what you do is a great job there. And one thing I wanted to mention, kind of going back to where we were just at, is you were talking about elevation change, and that elevation change was awesome up there on the carousel because it was almost like 3 tiered, right? And it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily elevation change using the terrain; it was just using the pathing system and stuff and buildings. It looked, I mean, the view you got from the park was really amazing.
Yeah, I even have I even have some parts that you have a ride above, a station underneath it, a queue underneath it, and another ride underneath it,
Yeah.
which costs a lot of headaches theming it. But it's actually quite fun because if you also go exploring and go in the queues and your camera gets a bit jittery and you fly out through the wall or something, you're you're immediately inside the dark ride area of an attraction or in
Oh,
the
that's cool.
exit or in the queue.
Yeah, that's really
So you
cool.
can so if you tend to go in Mythica and tend to go backstage, well, you're probably going to get lost.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, now as we can kind of see, now as we're on the queue for the coaster, just the sight lines of this coaster from anywhere in the park are awesome, and it has a lot
Yeah,
of
I
interaction.
love the buildings that you have there.
Agreed. And
They're
that little
really
bridge you walk
cool.
over is just really, really good, really well done. Oh well, here's the queue now. Never mind, I jumped the gun there. Um,
Yeah, but it's also cute that it mm, has that entertains you in terms of visuals. You can see the coaster, you can get excited before standing on. I
mhm,
mean, it's kind of textbook like how real theme parks want to create queues
And I love how
because
this.
they're afraid you get bored.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I love how this coaster just goes on top of the mountain. Or not necessarily on top of the mountain, but there's a mountain kind of beside it, and it's not a large
Yeah, but that's
coaster.
really neat because
Yeah.
you're in that sense you can also make sure that things don't look too big and they're
Mm,
more to scale. Because one thing that has been or annoying me a bit, or is that in Blanco when you go with your park and you place a ride and like the free fall towers or something, they're just immediately so freaking high.
yeah. Agreed. Agreed. Um,
And that's
we're
an
kind of like,
excellent way too.
yeah, it kind of stands out in the park and not in a good way.
Yeah, exactly. But
Yeah,
this
I
is really
agree.
neatly done, also with the waterfall. Cool.
Yes, agreed. I think this is actually the BOA model in the game because the it doesn't have the kind of curved track like that Vekoma SLC type does. This is really well done, even though it's obviously not the same. It kind of gives me with that first kind of little bit Nemesis vibes a little bit with the kind of idea behind it. The
Yeah,
Molten Tower is just how it's kind of dug out in a pit, and yeah.
yeah, it's really well done. And it's also surprisingly smooth.
hmm Yeah, it's good. I think for me, that's one of the hardest parts to kind of get used to in the game is smoothing out coasters well and kind of getting the elements, or if you start doing custom stuff, it takes a lot of time,
Mhm.
along with obviously custom building. But that was a really good coaster.
Yeah, and also with custom supports, I believe.
Actually, I
If
checked
I
it out.
saw it right.
I don't think there were any custom supports. I tried. There's a second when I kind of click on some things, areas where I thought it might be, and those actually weren't custom, um,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of crazy. But I love this building here. The detail in the roof
Yeah, it's an
is crazy.
amazing station. But it is a station, right?
Yes, that is a station. Yeah, doesn't look like it with how majestic it is, but definitely a station.
Yeah, and also a little photo booth in there.
Yeah,
It's really well made.
yeah, it's really well done. And there's an area to the left, I believe we look at in a second, which is just like obviously like some of the stuff that stands out to me the most is the stuff that the guests can't access, like this little walkway right here. Just
Hmm.
it adds nothing to the game in terms of like what the guests can actually do, but adds so much to like the aesthetics of it.
Yeah, I agree. Looks really cool. And I mean, the path system is always a bit annoying in the game, so when they can't get there, we make our own path.
Yes, I feel like that's one of the biggest complaints is the pathing system. And here I'm just kind of for people to see,
Uh,
kind of wondering what some of the pieces that this creator used on some of the designs. I know that's one thing I do when watching like your speed build or some other speed build sometimes is like pausing it and kind of seeing, oh, what piece was that. Um, yeah, when I clicked on the piece here, like trying to see if it was custom supports, it actually showed up as the coaster, which
okay.
really surprised me. So it could be
Yeah,
that the
because
actual.
they,
Or go ahead.
I, I have to say, I haven't built this type of coaster yet. I mean, no, I've heard of BMM, yes, but on this way, but I haven't really noticed the supports that much, to be honest.
Yeah,
I mean, apparently
I
because
love
I'm
those little roofs.
seeing them as custom supports, but
Yeah, really agree. A little backstage here, not a ton of detail, but there's enough. Some added realism there with like the air duct vents and stuff. And this is where I'd look at the roof.
Mhm.
I didn't realize until I zoomed on this part, like all of those are individual wooden
Oh, Jesus.
wooden posts and stuff.
Well, that will have taken some patience.
Yes. So, like I kind of
Because,
delete some of these, and it's like they've just all been overlaid. So it's just that's insane. The amount of detail and time that must have took. I'm like, no, I don't have
yeah,
I don't
that
have the
took a
patience
lot
for
of
that.
time. Looks
Yeah, insane. Um,
really cool.
yeah, and so that's another reason too. When I saw this, I thought of our conversation of how you talked about using so many pieces for a roof. That is couldn't imagine that. But the views in this park are awesome.
To be fair, when I have a roof that has that many parts, I most of the time create a small part of the roof and just copy paste it all the way.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that's what he did. Probably created, an eighth of it or whatever it is.
Hmm.
And even the bathroom is really well designed with the detail in that building.
Yeah, I love how he has emphasized the elven theme with the different spires and the different roofs, but they're all spires, but they're not alike. They're all different and with different kind of details. It's really well made.
Yeah. Here's another example of elevation change. Gosh, that looks cool.
Oh,
Once again,
Jesus.
another coaster in a pit, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, but then again, enough to see over all the height, not only the
hmm
coast. The station's all also jaw-dropping.
Yeah, stations are just so majestic. And I love how all these buildings too kind of have the spires on top, like the one part of the building that just extends higher than the rest.
Mhm.
And views are really well done for all the rides, not just the coasters. As we can kind of see a little seating area, and this is the queue for that, whatever that ride's called. But love
Mhm.
the custom fencing as well.
Yeah, it's really well made.
And then that's one thing too that I've seen a lot of PC players start doing is with park information, just putting whether it's screen monitors to show an image or different things up there to try to create the illusion that you're actually looking at park maps and stuff. Since
Mhm.
we can't actually add images,
Nope.
trying to be
You
creative with
get
it.
it on the console?
No, we can't add custom images.
Oh, that's shitty.
I know, it's crazy. It's like, I mean, you wouldn't think it would be that tough to just be able to import an image. Like you can import them to edit through Share Factory, but or I don't know why we can't take an image while we're playing the game and use that. But oh well, we make do, right? This
Yeah,
right
fair
here
enough.
is awesome
Oh, that looks like an awesome lounge.
for sure.
Especially at night with some light sequencing in there.
hmm
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
we do take a quick look at night later on. I feel like this park's better in the daytime, just from what I've seen. But then again, I personally like viewing stuff at daytime more because I feel like that's when you're actually at theme parks more. But I know everybody's got their own different opinion on that. So
Yeah, I mean, I try to, with my park, I also try to take into account the lightning,
hmm
just so it adds a bit of more theme and atmosphere when you're viewing it at night.
right, I agree with
And also,
that.
I have some dark ride sections, so I'm fiddling around with lights anyway, so I can just do the whole park.
Yeah,
And in a realism aspect, you can always have New Year's Eve or Halloween or things. So.
right. Yeah, that's cool. So one thing too that you should know about console is the pathing system is what kills the meter the most. And so with how long this queue is and the fact that none of it's on a grid, it's all this 3 meter path. This probably took
Mhm.
3 to 4% for just this queue line.
Jesus, really?
Yeah,
That
so that's
why? Just why? It's a path. Why?
I don't know. It's like I don't know because of the. I'm sure it has to do something with the coding of the guest and where they can go. But I that's why I
Yeah,
really
but
don't really make my queues long, and I don't really make mine that interesting, just because I don't want to use a ton of the percentage on that. Um, so
yeah, no, I agree.
really
Because it's
benefit.
a shame of percentage
Yeah, for
if it
sure.
goes that fast.
Really benefits you to place paths on a grid and then use 10 meter paths because using a 10 meter path compared to 4 meter on just your normal pass, you can get about
Mm.
3 times the amount for a percent, which is obviously a big deal.
Yeah. Um,
And the views from this coaster are just awesome when you're on it.
yeah, and also going through the buildings, it's always really cool to do.
hmm
Putting in some head choppers and things,
Yeah. This seems
which
to
I
be.
tend,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
which I tend to do a bit too much because often ends up that you shouldn't probably stick out your arms and legs because you'll step.
Yeah. It seems to be a little bit more on maybe not necessarily a family coaster, but it doesn't go upside down at all. So it's a little bit more tame.
Okay.
It's really well done with the, like you said, in and out of buildings. You go a lot of head chopper moments. Um,
Yeah, but family coasters can be fun as well. I
oh,
mean,
absolutely.
in some wheel parks, I have underestimated some of them.
Yeah, me too. Went on last year. My wife and I, with her parents, were at Disney for a couple days, and
Mm.
we went on that Slinky Dog Dash ride at Hollywood Studios. And I was thinking, oh, it only goes like 45 miles per hour. Yeah, it's a launch coaster, but it's more family. There's a couple moments that like got your stomach pretty good. I was like, oh, this is fun. So it's
Yeah, you also have those little rides which are actually have more of. There's one robot park called Pegasus, which is
okay.
also a family ride. It doesn't go fast, but it just has a couple of those curves and those hills. And that was actually one of the coasters that I underestimated. That was like, shit, this is more intense than I anticipated.
Yeah, agreed. Well, now we're kind of getting an overhead view of just kind of the layout of the coaster and stuff, and I think it's once again just the design of the buildings, and right there you can see the roof. It looks like those are individual planks that he used on that roof. It's just
Yeah, it's really
impressive.
cool to see. Also, nice way of putting down the terrain, using all kinds of different foliage,
Hmm.
making sure that all the buildings are a bit angled so that it doesn't seem that they're all on the grid.
Right.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Makes it
It's,
very lively.
I think one thing that's really always interesting when making coasters in this game is usually when you make the coaster and it's there by itself, you kind of look at it and you're like, okay, this doesn't necessarily look great, right? But like once you theme everything up, like it's gonna look totally different. So it's really cool to kind of see the process of um, how an area kind of comes to life. And as we see the lighting, maybe it's a little bit too much in terms of like too bright in some areas, but it's definitely all lit up
Yeah.
consistently.
I think for the path and things, it's lit up well.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe you could have done with around the coast, have some colored lights up there
Yeah.
accentuating the coaster itself,
Mm-hmm.
and then it would have been really cool.
Yeah, I can agree with
It's
that.
also it's still really cool, but
Yeah. And so we just got about a little bit over 2 minutes left as we kind of do some overhead shots. What kind of stood out to you about this park?
the amount of detail and how well made the theme is, how well represented it is.
Right.
Sorry, I'm switching for words a bit.
No, you're good. You're good. Um, yeah, I
But
agree.
it really looks cool, and I'm surprised actually that he was able to pull this off on the console.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
really great.
yeah, and that's one thing too, I think, and that's why I enjoy having a lot of, trying to get PC creators on here and stuff too, just so we can all kind of tie everything together and just kind of see here that
Mhm.
we got it's taking some time because we all got to learn that this game. There's a ton of really really good creators making stuff on
Yeah,
console. We just have limitations, which kind of hinder.
yeah, which actually makes it more difficult, but hey, in the end, it also makes you think of other solutions.
Hmm.
But I think it's a good thing to what you're saying that inviting PC players on to for the console build because in actually it are two different games because we can't communicate either way. I mean, the blueprints for PC can be on console and the other way
Right.
around. So and
Yeah.
that really is a shame, but that's probably due to the limitations that we've got. But
Yeah.
it's really fun to see.
Hmm. Well, even on console, like PlayStation can't share with Xbox, so it's we can't do
Oh,
cross.
really? I didn't even know that those couldn't share either.
Yeah, so
That
that's kind
really is
of
a shame.
yeah. Um, but I mean, I guess it's like, I mean, you understand in a way, just because I guess with systems being made differently and stuff. But um, yeah, I mean, it's cool to do spotlights and just kind of see what other creators are doing and get some inspiration from them and stuff. And like, I like the path layout and just it's a small park, but it's really really well done.
Yeah,
And
but it's the path layout is also fluent and it's natural. It isn't like pre-designed, not straight and all with curves.
right, agree. All right, so as we start to wrap this up, I thank you so much for joining me on this tour. And I definitely need to have you back for another one at some point. So as I said, make sure to go check out his channel. The link is in the description below. And thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. And for the guy that built it, sorry, I don't remember your name. You did a really good job.
Yeah,
It really looks awesome.
totally agree. And so if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and have a wonderful rest of your day.